But the artist me is more, that's where I get everything out.
Yeah.
I'm not shy about what I'm doing when I create.
Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon, and I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect.
This episode of Legend sees us take a spiritual journey with multi-disciplinary artist KOFI, whose debut album Sigma WULF drops in the coming weeks. I say spiritual journey because it took a culmination of war-torn violence, divine intervention, and a chance encounter with Jaden Smith for KOFI to get the perfect sound for his new album. KOFI, welcome.
Hey.
How are you, my friend?
Feeling good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Backs against the wall, now our backs against the wind. Full name trans and warrior, born on a Friday, feel like I'm over ya. Flow that Kodak infinite, I hold that. Her ancestors legendary for the world of Kush, living off the land, hands sit over the bush. I said her B went on that Snow White. I said good night and then hi ho on my high horse. Well, of course can't push the cart before my Porsche. Gotta push the art like a cyborg. Half just me and my oldest friend, standing on a rooftop blowing wind, living out our lows while we.
You're big into spirituality. You mentioned divine intervention. Your life number is 1. That's what you said.
Yeah.
How much of the characteristics of numerology have you embodied? Do you continue to embody? And how much is just coincidence?
I'd say it's funny with numerology because I would never look these things up. And then somebody mentioned to me, oh, you're very much like a 1. I'm like, what does that mean? I looked up my I guess you look up your birth number, and then I looked up 1 and it said leader, and somebody always manifests things. I'm like, yeah, I've been doing that my entire life. That makes so much sense. And even in acting school, we did this exercise, and for confidence, the teacher told me, remember, you're number 1. Like, so that number's been coming up in my life for a long time. Running track and field, first place, blue ribbon, that's all I would remember. I just always get these, I'm like, I need to get that 1, I need to get that 1. I'd always have to get first, all the time. And I don't think it's a coincidence because I've always felt very strongly about the number 1. And not just about being first, but about, I guess when someone hears 1, they kind of think of something like, oh, you think you're better than somebody else. It's not about that. To me, 1, it just means I feel like I have these abilities and gifts that I have to put out into the world. And by placing myself in the position of, no, I am 1. And I want somebody else to know, hey, you are 1 too. We're all 1. We're all number 1s. And this is my number 1. And my number 1 is expressed through creativity and art and through music.
On the other end of the spectrum, how easy is it to blame numerology on the negative aspects of human traits? So life, number 1, can be seen as materialistic and have aggressive attitudes, for example.
Yeah, definitely. You have to look at the pros and the cons. I always look at those things when I look up these descriptions. They'll talk about all the negative stuff, and somebody will just try and ignore that part, be like, no, it's not about that. But when I look at these numbers and the traits, and even as a kid, I was definitely had this not arrogance, but this aggressiveness. There's this idea, especially number 1, if you can't get your ideas out in the proper way, you start to get really mad and you release it through frustrating ways. And looking back on my past, especially as a kid, there are times when I would just be very aggressive and frustrated and mad and never understood why until I started looking up this numerology stuff and kind of connecting the dots and be like, oh yeah, that's when I felt this block. I couldn't get what I needed out. So if you can't get it out, you're a volcano, right? And eventually, volcano KOFI's gonna explode or something. Now I'm much better at, I guess, channeling it and catching it when it's there and just, eat something nice, take a walk, try to get it out. But it's very important to look at the negative aspects as well. So I look at both the positive and negative, and it's been on point. I don't understand why, but it is, and I take it and I use it, constructively.
Is that why you're also big into bodybuilding as well? It's just another avenue for you to channel whatever emotions you have, as well as the artistic side.
Yeah, I have a lot of energy. I don't drink coffee for that reason. Like I've always had so much pent up energy. Growing up, I put into track and field and playing soccer. Well, football, as I really like to call it. It's not soccer. And sports, and then into arts and piano and other aspects. So I've always had all this volcanic energy within me and a need to channel it.
Now, just to touch on, you taught yourself how to read music without actually reading sheet music. You learned by sense. Yeah,
because when I was 4, I started taking piano lessons, but I had a really hard time kind of reading and playing the notes at the same time. And then my teacher just said, freestyle. And then I started playing like blues and jazz, and I can sense what note I needed to play next. And over time, I started just not reading music, but feeling it and sensing it, hearing it in my head. And anytime I hear music in my head, my goal is to get it out of my head. And I don't know how I do it. I feel like sort of like a blind person trying to find their way around a room. But over time, I've mastered exactly where everything in the room is without having to see it. Wow.
Is that why your music's so diverse?
Yes, definitely. It's my brain is constantly taking in sounds, right? Taking in different forms, different genres, different notes. And it likes to take all those different sounds and then put them together in different ways. I don't like doing something the same way. If something sounds familiar, I also want to take it to a different place. And I feel like a lot of artists, our job is to draw from inspiration, the history of different sounds and different chord progressions and everything, and then you make something new. That's to me, creativity is you're drawing from a pool, the same pool everyone's drawn from, John Lennon to Prince to AC/DC to Tupac or whatever, and you take those little bits of it and then you make your own food or you make your own thing out of it. We're all just making different recipes.
That's amazing. And it's interesting that you brought that up because you've called Sigma Wolf an event album. Now, I've put 2 and 2 together and came up with a conclusion that it's because each song represents a genre that is specific to a time or event in your life. For example, I was listening to Untitled Waves. Yeah. I feel like it's a blend of trap and R&B. Okay. And it talks about your initial struggle making waves. I'd imagine that's in Vancouver. Yeah. So when you're recording, how challenging is it to channel the direction or mindset you want to go in order to produce that result that's the best reflection of your experience?
How difficult is it? If it's difficult, then I'm doing something wrong. That's the way I see it.
Right.
When it just flows out, then I know I'm on the right path. With Untitled Waves, that one came out. It's like I think it took 10 minutes to write that or something. That song was easy. It just felt nostalgic with the mix of, like you said, there's trap sounds and there's R&B sounds, but those drum sounds are from an 80s drum machine that I had, and those drum sounds are reminiscent of 1994, 95, 96 New York hip hop. That boom bap sound is very old school sound, but I like to also then add something that's present and something that's futuristic. So there's something familiar with the drum sounds, but there's also something modern with the trap sounds. But then I'm also throwing in my different rap style and just all those styles blended together in a different pattern, so it sounds brand new. I always create that sort of aspect with my music.
And just touching on that aspect of futuristic, the song that comes on after that, I believe it's called Middle Fingers in the Air, or is it Rebel?
Rebel. Oh, that's from I think I sent you so much music.
Yeah, it's all from the initial EP that you put out, which was titled Deathblow.
Yeah, that one sampled Daft Punk.
Yeah, I love
Daft Punk. Yeah, that one was. I don't even know how to describe that. That project I made in like 7 days. I didn't eat for 7 days. I didn't do anything except run 5 miles, and then while I was running, these songs would come, and I'd run back home, and I just heard this Daft Punk stuff in my head. I'm like, dun, 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 dun. And I ran back home, and I started chopping up the sounds that I made that song. Yeah.
So they broke up yesterday.
Yeah.
Terrible. How critical was their influence on the urban genre or the urban industry, and how do you see their sound or legacy moving forward? Aside from people like you sampling their songs. Have we seen the end of that sort of that futuristic sound?
No, because I think they were so far ahead of their time that people are still catching up to what they were doing. And I mean, their influence is very huge on especially modern music, urban music. Even when you hear songs from The Weeknd, they worked with them, but you hear aspects of their music in his music and in lots of people's music. That French house dance vibe, you hear it on the radio all the time too, but a lot of people don't. If they don't know who Daft Punk is, they don't realize they've been influencing those sounds for a very, very, very long time. And I think, especially because they're retired now, people are going to start running towards their music, gravitating towards it even more. So if people don't know who they were, they're like, who are these two robots that make this music? And then you start listening to it like, oh, wait. And the only thing I regret is I never got to see them live. Yeah, so same. I've watched videos of their live sets. It's just, they're not just musicians. It's just, they have a very, very beautiful visual aspect of their art, which also inspires me too. They've made films with their music.
I was just going to say,
too, right?
Have you ever watched Interstellar 5555?
Yes, I have.
Sober?
Yeah. That's what I love. That creativity. That's so inspiring. So that type of inspiration will live on in their music and even the visual aspects. It's not just about sound. It's an experience, right? So
there's a Bingo Players homage in that album. Cry Just a Little. You sample that.
You caught that.
Yeah, of course. Did your love of dance music come from your work on the nightclub circuit? Because what the viewers don't know, and I do, you're a bouncer.
Oh, I guess I've been in so many different nightclub scenes here and in, I guess, in New York and stuff. So I guess dance music and club music has influenced me a lot. And I've just had friends, even living in Berlin, they're DJs, or in Paris, and they'd be sending me their music, their sets, or they'll send me videos of their shows and everything. So I've always been like inundated with that sound. I'm engrossed with so many different sounds, but it's kind of funny you're bringing this up because I don't even think of it that way. But then when you mention, oh, you sampled this, and it's very much like it's very club dance, I'm like, yeah, you're right. The music to me is a journal almost. So when you're hearing me sampling Daft Punk or this and that, you're probably thinking, oh, he's probably going through some party phase right now, or he's having fun. And that's exactly what it is.
Right.
So yeah.
What's the difference between the KOFI we see bouncing in the nightclubs, the dude I see in the gym in his own world, and KOFI the artist?
The artist is extremely extroverted in what he does. I'm sorry to talk in a third person, but since you're asking me in two different aspects, I'm very quiet, laid back, and you see me in front of the bar, nightclub scene, just in real life. I keep to myself, but I have no problem speaking out when necessary. If somebody steps up to me, I have no problem stepping up too. But I like to kind of live laid back and just chill. But the artist me is more, that's where I get everything out. Yeah. I'm not shy about what I'm doing when I create. Deathblow,
your EP, fantastic EP, came about from playing the club circuit in Montreal in 2016. How vital was it that you embarked on that journey?
The most important move I've made in my life. I've moved a lot in my life. I've lost count. But that one is where I figured myself out. Mostly. Montreal is a place where a lot of artists go to move because it's, you can find a cheap housing and you can just focus on your music, jam with other artists and everything. And I've got to meet a lot of artists that I'm still friends with today. And it just allowed me to work on my sound. And not just musically, I mean, just like even spiritually. I got very sound. As soon as I felt ready for the world, I bought a plane ticket and came back here. So it took about 2.5 years. So I was just doing shows out there and surviving. I lived through all my joys and my greatest fears there. It just felt like I was going to war with myself. And when the war was over, I came back home. So, yeah.
It's cool that you mentioned that. You also were quoted as saying, Montreal is a sanctuary of art because musicians can hone their craft before heading elsewhere. So my question to you is, why was the war within you only when you were away from home? For example, how much of our success or failure is based on our perception of our surroundings? Why can't we be the same person in Montreal that we are in Vancouver? Why do we have to go away in order to come back?
That one to me is easy. I left because I felt a ceiling in Vancouver. I was trying to organize a whole bunch of different events and different shows with different artists, and nothing was happening. So on a whim, I went online, changed my profile to location Montreal, and people started messaging me. Mm-hmm. And they're like, hey, can you do a show this week, next week? I love your stuff. And I was just like, I'm not even there, and they're showing me love. So I said, okay, I'm out of here. I'm going right over there. That's the only reason I left.
Yeah.
Any place that at that point was showing me any sort of sign that, hey, we can see what you're doing or what you're about to do. If it was Wisconsin, I would have gone. Like, it was at that point where Vancouver wasn't giving me anything. I was giving so much to it, but I felt nothing in return. Montreal just read my tag, and then they were just like, can you do a show next week? Oh, we want to sign you to this company. Can you do this? I was just like, okay. Let's go.
It's cool because I travel the US. I love doing it. I love traveling by bus, by train. I'm not a flyer. So when I go to the US and travel, I always feel like the window of opportunity is more open, when you're in survival mode over there than I am, I guess, being complacent here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's
as beautiful as this place is.
It's very beautiful. Yeah. It grounds you. Vancouver is very grounding. Yeah. And that's very, very... I've learned that now. I appreciate it now that I've gone all over the place, that it's actually Vancouver's ability to just be chill and grounding is what makes me a great artist, because in any environment, I know how to take myself back to being grounded.
Right.
And also to be able to create here. A lot of people will tell you there's not a lot going on or this and that, and they'll go elsewhere. But if you can create here, that means you can create anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to create in New York City. There's so much inspiration there. There's so many museums. There's so much the ghosts of legendary artists are floating all over the place. You can feel it. You can take from it. But if you can create in an environment that's not known for that, that means you can create at all times, anytime, your own inspiration. You draw from yourself. Yeah, that's what I've learned about Vancouver. But going to New York City, it was just, it's so easy to create for me out there, or in California. It's just it seems like all the luck and all the things start gravitating towards me. And sometimes, like you're just saying, I'm wondering, is it the location, mm-hmm. or is it me, or am I in the right place at the wrong time? Sometimes you have to follow your intuition. Yeah. If it says go left, you have to go left, right? Yeah. And if it says go right, you go right.
That EP Death Blow dropped in Montreal. Sigma Wolf's coming out. When's it coming out?
I can't give you a date, but it's coming, and you'll know when it's coming. It's one of the best albums you'll ever hear. That's amazing. Quote me on that.
I'm excited. So what did you learn from Death Blow that helped you with the direction of Sigma Wolf?
Death Blow taught me what I can do in 7 days at that time in my life. It was very, 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 very difficult. It was very hard. Like family stuff. I think my dad was not feeling well a lot, and it just seemed like everything was going down. But from that pit, all this music popped out. And it taught me that no matter how low I get, there's a point where something switches and says, no, you're not here to stay down. Take all of that and bring it back up. And then take that and put into your art. So for Sigma Wolf, it's the same thing. I went through so many struggles in Montreal, and throughout my entire life, this album encapsulates everything that I've experienced up to the point where you press play. And Death Blow taught me that I can make high-level music. Sigma Wolf taught me that Death Blow is not high-level music compared to Sigma Wolf. So it just showed me progression.
Right.
It taught me progression, and life is constant progression.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
So thank you very much
Thank
for being
you.
a part of Legends, and we will see you next time.